Welcome to everyone joining us live this morning, and hello to everyone that's going to be catching up later on YouTube. I'm here this morning, and I just want you to ask you to think with me a little bit about the concept of safety this morning. We're going to be thinking about how maybe our ideas of safety may have shifted a little bit in terms of the current situation that we're in. Want to think a little bit about the things that help us feel safe and generate that feeling of safeness. Think about what that safety then creates for us, and have a bit of a think about practical ideas to help ourselves and those that we work with and live with feel safe. So I'm going to just put up the PowerPoint now, if you give me a second. Okay. So to begin with, I've got this slide here with what we call the ecosystemic model. And this was developed by an American psychologist in the 70s to really think about how a child, an individual, and the environment interact together to create development and safety. So we're going to use this model, which as an educational psychologist, I use a lot in thinking about my work with children, schools and families. But we're going to really think about this concept, this framework today in terms of safety and the situation we're in now. So if we think about the first very central part of this framework, it's a child and the individual. And at the moment, we're all experiencing the changes, the differences of how we live our lives and how that impacts on us. And think a little bit about how yesterday Nicole was talking to us about the nervous system, and how a child, or all of us as individuals, may be more hyper or hyper aroused at the moment because of the differences in life, differences in how we're living our lives. There's a really interesting quote in a book that I really enjoy by Bessel van der Kolk, which is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how we're organised to survive and organised to kind of seek out safety, and that all links in with that fight, flight, fawn and freeze reactions that we can have as individuals. So at the moment we might be feeling kind of quite unsafe, going through very different experiences of life. And then if we move out into that next section of the framework, our immediate social environment, now that's changed very much as well, just in the pure fact that we're at home together a lot more. That social environment has changed. We're not seeing our extended families so much. We may be staying indoors a lot more than we're used to. And there may be some elements of that immediate social environment that offer a sense of safety. So staying in might help us feel safe because we're aware of the outside environment, there's some danger there. But there may be elements as well we need to remember of danger and feelings of unsafety within that immediate social environment. The family structures, the idea of at home now, home is now school, so that there's different ways of dealing with that element of life. Siblings, everyone together, which may help you feel safer, but it also may generate feelings of uncertainty. And again, if we go out into the next layer of the framework, the local social environment, thinking about how the changes of our health service, going to school or not going to school, as it is for many of us at the moment, that local social fabric has changed in ways that are unprecedented. So again, if that ripples down onto the family and the child and creates very different feelings of whether you get a sense of safety from that local social fabric. Even down to maybe not being able to access health services as easily as you might be able to, not able to connect with your neighbourhood as easily as you are able to. And then again, if we go out into the final ring of this model, thinking about the national and international environment, and again, this is a place where it's changed in ways that we would not have expected, and many of us have not lived through and experienced. We're experiencing that sort of very different way of working. There's issues around the economy and elements like that, which also create feelings of unsafety. And all of these rings, all of these sections go back and forth, they interact with each other, and they help us feel more or less safe. And actually, there are elements of positivity happening at the moment. There are a lot of things that are happening that can create change, and hopefully change that will sustain, and helping feelings of safety in our community. So there's a lot of people looking out for the neighbourhood. There's a lot of people that will work and go to thinking about getting prescriptions for the elderly people. A lot more people are volunteering and doing things like that. And as educational psychologists as well, we're involved with every layer of this framework. We are still checking in with the children that we work with. We are looking at their families, seeing how we can support the families in different ways. We are still checking in with our schools and teachers, seeing how we can support in that way. And I know that there are EP colleagues that are even involved at a national level, helping create guidelines with the Department for Education around transition and things like that. So we're really thinking and working in every layer, even though it may feel a little bit difficult doing that from home. So the next part I really would like you to think about is sort of take this in, take it into be thinking about it a little bit more individually. And I wondered if you could just give me a sense of what helps you gain a sense of safety or containment. What are the things at the moment that help you feel safe in this different environment that we're in? I'm just going to give you a second to think about that, and I wonder if you share a couple of thoughts in the Q&A section as well. That would be really nice. Just think about, are there certain people, are there certain things that you do that help create a feeling of safety? Yeah, already there's an idea of routine and having a structure for the day. A structure again, routine, connecting with others, routine. Routine seems to be a very important factor of safety for everyone at the moment. And I think, yeah, supervision, supportive management. And I think routine is one of those key things for the children and young people that we work with now and in usual times. So different themes coming up there. I can see more coming in. Let's have a quick look. Routine. Different activities. A cup of tea, I like that one. The natural world, that's a really nice thing. Looking at what's happening, the spring flowers. Being part of a team and having people to be able to catch up with. So yeah, all really important things to help us feel safe. So when I've done this type of activity with people before, with other training that we've done, thinking about what makes us feel safe, there are lots of themes that come up. Safety is very individual. We have our own things that help us feel safe and contained. But those overriding themes around safety are things such as a place, our homes, a certain place within our homes that can help us feel safe. We often see children liking to go to certain areas of the school, maybe a tent and things like that, that helps us feel safe. And at the moment, even more so, home is their safe space. It does feel very difficult to go outside. You know, I never thought that just going to the supermarket would take so much energy and thought, because we're in such a different environment at the moment. So home does feel, for many of us, not all of us unfortunately, but for many of us, home does feel safe. A person, that safety from a person who means something to you. That might be a family member, or it might be, as someone said in the list, connecting with people even virtually to feel that you have that connection. An object can make us feel safe. We often talk about transition objects. You very often see a young child carrying a teddy or something with them as they go out because it helps them feel safe. We think about children going to preschool or moving on, taking familiar objects to help them feel connected with people. So objects are very, very important for safety as well. And there might be, the place, a person, an object are very tangible things, are things we can hold and see. But there are also internal things that can help us feel safe. So that might be a memory of a person. It might be a sensation, a touch, a certain fabric, certain clothes that we wear as well can make us feel safe. And there may be something else, something completely different. We all have our own routines, as it came up in the Q&A section. Routine is a very big one to help us feel safe, and certainly at this time where all our routines have changed so massively. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that, and I hope that was a useful thing to think about, because that does resonate with what we're going to think about in terms of practical ideas, because these themes will resonate with the children as well and young people we work with. They're the things that we need to look at with them, what helps them feel safe. So what does safety create? Well, it's a real range of things, and safety is, first and foremost, if we feel safe and have a sense of safeness, it has a massive impact on our personal sense of well-being, our mental health, and just our sense of feeling happy. If we're feeling safe and we're feeling happy, then that gives us the ability to trust other people and maybe extend the people that we talk to. We have space to build relationships with different people if we feel safe. And then onwards from that space of building relationships, we then have the capacity to learn, and then we can learn and grow and become more resilient. So safety creates so much, and if we feel unsafe, then all of those elements are harder. And this can happen in usual times for children in school, and quite a lot, I would say most of the time, where children are finding school difficult and maybe seeming to be quite challenging in the way they approach school. The fundamental thing that they will be feeling is a lack of safety around things, and not feeling safe in school. So that's where we need to really work on the children feeling safe, and us feeling safe as well, to help them. So I'm aware time is already going past very quickly, so we will move on to some of the practical ideas, and maybe we can think a bit more about these in other sessions as well. So as I mentioned there, building relationships are an incredibly important part of our feelings of safety, and I think they're the foundation across the board. At the moment, those relationships are different. We're having a lot of virtual relationships. We may be spending more time with our families at home, which can create friction, but it's really important to sort of pull out the positives of that and see how you can support each other through those relationships, both now and then as we move on out of this situation and move forward. You've already all mentioned developing routines, and again, that's going to be very, very important at home. We've thought a lot about having your lessons and the learning at home, but also routines about when you have your daily exercise, when you have lunch, when you might do more fun and relaxing things together as a family. Those routines are going to be very important. And share out responsibilities as well, because sometimes there's a sense of safety in knowing that you're responsible for something, and you know, that can give you a sense of meaning as well. Back to the physical things, provide actual safe spaces within your home. So again, tents, making dens with various blankets and things. You may all have, and I know this is very much with my family when I was younger, we would all have our own chair and our space, a cushion that we might like to hold and hug. So have those spaces and respect those spaces for each other as well. Explore and wonder. There's something about people listening to you and wondering what's going on for you that can help you feel safe as well, that you're being held in mind, which is again a very sort of fundamental thing from a young age of attachment and things, of being kept in mind, people wanting to know what's going on for you, whether that's to a text, I wonder how you're getting on today, face-to-face communication, and just exploring, what are you feeling today, how can I help? The next one about being truthful as well, and I think that there's something in our current situation where many of us don't know what's happening and we don't know when things are going to be changed, and that can make us feel very uncertain and very unsafe. And I think it's very important to be truthful, particularly with younger children and young people, and say when we don't know, and acknowledge that things are hard, because if we're sharing that experience, there is a sense of safety in that shared uncertainty, that we're in it together. And I would say, even as adults, we need to seek help and support now and at all times, where we're working really hard in schools and as EPs and whatever role you do, and as parents, seek help and support. Ask someone. At the moment, again, I know in Southend and across the country, educational psychology services, mental health services are opening up phone lines. There's online support. We're doing webinars and things like this. Seek these things out and call and speak to people when you're feeling uncertain. Okay. So thank you for listening. I hope I haven't gone off too much on tangents there. I'd like to open it up now for some questions and have a look, see if there's any questions there, any thoughts. Yeah, I'll come out of the PowerPoint now so I can see your questions. Okay. I can still see some of the thoughts around safety, around seeing friendly faces and hearing people. That's a lovely one. And the garden, yeah, that's definitely a place I love to be. Okay, so a really useful question here: how can educators support young people who are struggling to learn at home as a result of feeling unsafe in the current climate? I've been talking to a lot of parents about learning from home and the pressures that they're feeling. And what I'm saying to a lot of families is to focus on emotional well-being first. So think about feeling safe and feeling happy, and look at more creative ways to learn at home. So you can't copy school, you can't be the same as school, so it's what feels comfortable for you, and then that will help you both feel safer in this different situation. And we will be thinking about learning and learning from home a lot more in other sessions. Let's have a look. What might my child be showing me if they're feeling unsafe? You will very much know your children's normal patterns of actions and reactions, and I think any change, any way that they might be more clingy with you, or seeking out their rooms and things like that. Some of that's going to be normal behaviour, certainly with our teenagers. There's a lot of talk about teenagers not wanting to come out of their bedroom. But I think any sense of different behaviour will be a good thing to then explore. I wonder how you're feeling. This is really different, isn't it? How can we think about it together? Really lovely question here about the ecosystemic model and how we can think about it with young children returning to school. And I think that is something we're starting to think about already, both locally and nationally. It's difficult at the moment because we don't know exactly when the schools are, all the children will go back to schools and what that will look like. But certainly if we look at that model again, we need to consider all of those layers and how they interact together to make that return to school feel very, very safe for children. And when we talked a little bit today about feeling safe in our home, but there will be some people who do feel safe in home and do not want to go back out again. And they will find that transition back out into the world will bring up sort of more feelings of unsafety than maybe staying at home. So I think we're going to look at transition as a kind of broader, general thinking about how all of us will need to think about what's going to happen when we go back to work and to school, and then some more individual things of that particular child, that particular family, that particular area as well. So the framework of ecosystemic, I think, will help us very much with that. Okay. Let's have a look, see if there's any more. I think there's comments here around routines and feeling safe, maybe not watching the news every day and picking the type of information you look at. And I've heard that again a lot. People are probably just turning on the news once a day to find out what's going on. Yes, again, another area that we're sadly having to think about, but is a very real factor at the moment, is thinking about bereavement and how to support young people in with that loss, grief and loss. And we will be looking at webinars to look at that area as well. And we have some information on the website around grief and loss. And I think it is an area as well where young people themselves have shared that there is the fear of dying. People are dying from the coronavirus, and that's a very scary thing to sit with. And again, it's looking at talking that through with the young people and giving them an opportunity to share those thoughts and to actually think about how we are trying to keep ourselves safe by staying in and trying as much as we can to not get ill. And that's a very important thing to help us feel safe. The phone line, we have a phone line in Southend, which parents, school staff and young people could call. It's the number is up on our website. If you check there, I don't know the number off the top of my head. Maybe Nicole can pop it into chat for us. We've extended the hours, and I know other educational psychologists across the country have done a similar thing. So we're running Tuesday to Thursday, pretty much all day, for anyone that wants to call and have a chat with an EP. Okay, there's a really interesting question just come up now around post-traumatic growth. Yeah, that's a very interesting concept, and I think that's something that we're going to move into very much as we talk about coming out the other side of this. And I think we have to acknowledge that people will be experiencing this in very different ways. And I think we have to acknowledge that there will be some trauma connected with what we've been through. Those feelings of unsafety have shifted how we experience the world in a very profound way. And I think we have recently, as educational psychologists and psychologists as a whole, had a lot more research around things such as adverse childhood experiences, how trauma impacts on our bodies and our psychological thinking. So I think we need to keep these things in mind, and very much not think that it's business as usual when we come out the other side of this pandemic. And I think there is that there is something to learn from what we're going through now, and I know there's a lot of research going on already about how people are reacting, their day-to-day reactions to this. So I think that there will be growth, and that we need to take that positive slant that we will learn from this, but also acknowledge the impact that it has had. Thank you for that question. I'm aware I've just got a couple of minutes left, so I'll just check that I haven't missed any other questions. I also think as well with this concept of safety, it will resonate with all of the webinars that we have planned over the next few weeks, and it's a kind of foundation concept to think about how we work as EPs and how we support families and children and schools and things like that. So, you know, we're really pleased and very heartened with the amount of interest, positive feedback, and the people that want to get involved. So we've got some really exciting webinars coming up for you in the future. So that's really exciting. One last question that's just come in. Yeah, some other practical suggestions around feeling safe. Certainly for young children, maybe with additional needs, and young people, we can look at social stories, reading usual stories that give messages around feelings of safety or how we can come together. And I'll go back to the idea of just talking to the children and young people, letting them know that you will listen and will be there for them. Thank you very much for listening in this morning, and if you're listening later on, we're coming to the end of the session now. Thank you very much for joining us, and I sincerely hope you have a good day and hope to see you back here again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.